What's up, YouTube? So today I have an amazing guest. I have Seth with me, also known as Soccer Card Corner on YouTube. By the way, I will leave all the links for him below the video. But it's a pleasure to have you with me, Seth. How are you doing, first of all? And give me an update in your journey since more than 1 year ago I had you on YouTube, and I'm really curious to see how things are going on.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me again. I can't
Oh,
believe
my
it's been
pleasure.
already over a year. Feels like a lot has changed, so I'm excited to kind of dig into all the different things that have changed over that time. Uh, I guess update on my journey. Yeah, still making videos on YouTube. Focused on we can dive into it, but focused on the Lionel Messi, trying to obtain a Lionel Messi rookie, but really building the bankroll and trying to share that process, share, what I'm grading, my thoughts, kind of just like the whole thought process behind trying to grade cards to build up a bankroll. Through the, hopefully allowing other people to learn from my journey, and then just making other videos around observations about the market, and just fun topics that I find interesting that I want to dive into and then share with everyone else. So it's been good. As you probably know, that I think the toughest part is just being consistent and like staying on top of, recording and doing all that stuff along with, the other responsibilities in life. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun year getting more and more immersed into the soccer card hobby.
No, for sure. I've been following your channel, and I mean, a lot of great stuff there. And I think it's so cool that you have been documenting your journey. Actually, we have questions related with that today, but it's kind of cool to see that you had one goal, and you probably have more goals right now, but you are still trying to at least stay focused in the main goal that started everything. So, Seth, I believe you know how this works. I have 5 questions for you. I will start with the first one. We don't have to stay very attached to them, but they are good entry points for the conversation. So, the question number 1. Recently, we had the Gold Neuer Top Scrum 2017 selling for $800. Was a PSA 10, and for people that are not aware, gold are out of 50. But not that long time ago, a orange, also in the same set, sold for a little bit over $100. I believe was 120. Orange was a PSA 9, so less condition rarity, but orange is out of 25 versus gold out of 50. There was a lot of talk about this sale on my Discord. I also saw people on Instagram chatting about this. But I would love to know your views on this topic, because I recently noticed that you are also collecting the set. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least I saw a nice Salah on your Instagram. I believe is a red PSA 10, right, or PSA 9? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
10. Yeah.
at the end. So congrats, first of all. But your views about this, since you are also at least interacting with the set.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, for context, I am currently trying to collect the gold set. I've been posting some of it, but also trying to strike a balance between, trying to collect what I can, but also sharing with other people. So yeah, I thought this was a super fascinating sale. I didn't even realize the orange had sold until I saw the message in the Discord and the subsequent discussion.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple things happening here. I'll try to go through each one. I think one, I think just generally speaking, as somebody who's gotten more into this set and interacted with others who are pretty well versed in this set, there is definitely a mismatch between values in orange and gold. And what I mean by that is, like, if you take a PSA 10 for a random player in the set of orange and gold, and you ask everyone who collects the set or everyone who knows about the set, what would they pay for each one? The gold one will almost always sell for at least the same as the orange, sometimes more, depending on like pops and stuff like that. So that right there, there's obviously an inefficiency just in the fact that gold is out of 50. It sells for almost exactly the same as orange out of 25, when you would expect the orange to basically be twice as expensive. So like that's happening. I think you mentioned the PSA 9, PSA 10. There's probably some adjustment we can make for that. Interestingly, though, I was looking at those cards. I think the gold is a pop 2. The PSA 10 is a pop 2. And I think the orange, the pop the PSA 9 is a pop 1 and there's one higher. So it's not like there's 10 oranges
That's
and then
crazy.
you could explain, so honestly, and without giving like too much away around like who purchased it, although I think he's already shared it. I know that the gold.
I think people are aware. It
Okay.
was actually the last guess on.
Yeah, James. Yeah, so I was talking to him just about his chase, and I know that I know Neuer was one of the final.
Oh, sorry, you said. So just to say one thing, I actually thought the sale was too strong, but he's an amazing collector, great guy. It was one of my best podcasts, to be honest. And I'm really happy that he actually was the person that ended up getting the gold, because he's in really, really good hands.
Exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why it went for so much too, is that the fact that he's very close to collecting the whole set. That was one of the few remaining ones that he needed, and it hasn't come up in like a year. And I don't, exactly. I mean, I guess I don't know who was bidding against him, right? Like, it's hard to know if those are other set collectors or if it's other people who just haven't seen that card and really value it. But I think the fact that it was him who bought it probably drove the price up a bit, because he was probably willing to pay, whatever it took to get it. So I think there's that aspect of it too. Whereas I would imagine the orange, even if it is a set collector, again, I think it's just a little more under the radar. So there probably wasn't as many eyes or as much demand. I think the gold had quite a few more bids too, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's kind of a few things happening here. I agree in general. Like, if you look at those two cards just next to each other, it looks really odd, because like, even if you adjusted for the grades, the gold is basically selling for like 2 or 3x what the orange is. And then there's basically a 2x, less rarity the other way. But I think that's kind of just what's happening with this set in general. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I know you've been collecting different cards from that set for quite a bit longer than me.
Hey guys, quick pause on this one. First of all, hope you are enjoying the video. If that's the case, do not forget to leave a like, but let me share with you two things. The first is I have a Patreon community that is growing super fast. I put a lot of content there. If you joined right now, you pay around $10, but you have access to more than 100 exclusive videos. It's an amazing place to learn about the soccer card market, and you also support the channel. Link below the video and also in the comments. The second thing is my Discord server. We are more than 1,000 members. I'm gonna say it again, 1,000 members. And it's an amazing community, an amazing place to interact with me, to interact with other collectors, to learn and share about the soccer card market. Similar to Patreon, link will also be below the video. If $10 is a lot of money to you, don't feel pressure to join the Patreon. For me, it's not super relevant. Of course, I would love to see you there, but at least join the Discord. That's totally free and is an amazing place to learn about the soccer card market, like I said a couple of seconds ago. Now let's continue with this one, and I hope you have fun. Well, it's a difficult one. I honestly believe that the sale for the gold was a bit too much, and my comparison is not even the orange, even though that also plays a role. Is that recently a red Buffon sold for 900 and was a PSA 10, and at least I put the Buffon card a bit ahead of the Neuer, specifically because of the photo. I think the Buffon is a much better one. The Neuer is in the training kit. I don't even like that photo that much, and it's a red. I mean, red are the grails of. Apart from, of course, the one-of-ones, but the reds are the grails of the set. And if Buffon goes for 900 or something like that, and Neuer in a gold, and was also PSA 10, by the way, on red, goes for 800, I think there is much better value on the Buffon. I could be wrong, but I actually believe James was also the winner of the Buffon.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So I think that's the other thing about this, is that it's like, it's the same guy buying both of them, right? So it's like,
yeah. So I think
it's also.
No, go ahead.
So I think we often look at like, oh, what's the value, right? And I think in these situations, like, it's fair, but I also don't think, like, if this card came up for auction, the gold I'm talking about, if that came up for auction this week and then next week and then next week, I'd be surprised if those prices hit the $800 price. I think it's a very unique circumstances of factors, and in especially considering the person buying these. Like, I get the sense that some of these less popular, like more rare cards from this set it's like the same 5 people like battling against each other for them. That's at least like what it feels like as somebody who's recently been also trying to acquire cards from this set.
But the thing I would add to that is I actually believe he got an amazing deal on the Buffon Red. I thought the Buffon around 1K was a really, really nice deal. I didn't like the gold that much, but he kind of ended up balancing out because I thought he did an amazing deal in one. The other one, I'm a bit more, honestly, whatever. But the thing about orange, yeah, I mean, looking at $100 for the orange seems crazy good deal. So I would much rather be the seller on the gold than the buyer on the orange. The thing that I also would add into this conversation is people have to. I see the narrative that there is collectors for red, there is collectors for gold, but the reality check, there is collectors for all colors. That's the thing, and orange being out of 25 does not take a lot of collectors to put all of them out of the market, or very expensive and difficult to obtain. And you also end up touching in something that when knowing that the person that went for the Neuer really wanted that, what scares me, and I'm being very honest here, is that people can really get shield bid in this type of stuff, because I'm really not sure if that price... to be honest, I did not even look at the auction that close to have a strong opinion, but it's tricky because we all end up facing this when we want a card and all of a sudden the price is already out of the fair deal that we expected. What's going on? And later we see the card relisted, and you also have a sense, okay, I almost fell for that. But I don't know. I mean, I believe the long run could be a great buy, you know?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think it's tough because, as like, again, like going through the checklist, you see one come up and it's tough to balance, like, oh, I need to get this versus like, what is a fair comp or what is a fair market price for this card? I think part of it is like, if I had 3 cards left and one of them hadn't come up in over a year and then it popped up, like, I don't know, it would be tough to not go strong for it. But I think you also bring up a really good point on the orange. I have a couple orange that I've just graded over the years, and another one at PSA, and they're actually really beautiful in person. I think they kind of get lost between the red, which is obviously out of 10, and then gold, which is sort of like the hobby. Everyone loves gold. But I really think that the orange, just unfortunately, it's like they got stuck between the red and the gold. And because of that, I think it gets forgotten about a little bit.
So the parallel I actually have the most in the set is gold, I believe. But the second is orange. I find for me, this is always, this gold narrative is a bit of nonsense in my perspective, because I understand that some cards really look nice in gold, but I think this is more set to set. There is golds that I don't even like that much in other sets. I actually like the gold a lot in Chrome, to be honest, but I like all the parallels in Chrome. That's the thing. I thought they made the set really, really well. But like you said, the orange looks nice. And before we started recording this, actually I was doing some research for a Patreon video on this topic. And I was looking at prices for Mbappe, because I think the Mbappe card is the best card to take a look, because in terms of liquidity and price history is ahead of the competition. And again, I'm still in my early stage of research on this topic, but I believe the most expensive Mbappe on Chrome was actually a orange one in a PSA 10, sold for more than the gold at the top of the market, to be fair. So who knows how it would play out now. And the narrative seems a bit stronger for the gold nowadays. I totally admit that. But when you look at the Mbappe card, the gold and the orange, the difference is sometimes the orange even sells for more. And you also mentioning that in other sports, in other sets, right? So honestly, it's about opportunity. I see more opportunity in the orange right now than I see on the golds. Do I like the golds more than the orange? Probably yes, to be fair on the set. But it's not a distance that for me is makes me pay 10x more for one versus the other.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
I'm sorry, actually, for example, I think blue looks amazing on the set. I also believe green looks amazing on the set. Even purple
Yeah,
matches well. So the set is really, really well made.
I agree. I've actually like messed around with like, okay, should I just start buying? Because you can buy a lot of the, I'll call them just like random players, like the no name type players. Like you can buy them all over like CompC, or people are selling them on Instagram and stuff. And I've honestly been like, should I just start buying up all these like blue and green, purple of these like random people that, like, if I ever decided to collect the set, they would be the ones that would be the hardest to find because people aren't really grading. They're not really
When
grading some of these players.
when
And
I
I don't
started
know. I go back and
collecting,
forth. What's that?
when I started collecting the set, the green was actually my favorite parallel because remember me the the PMG stuff, and I thought
Oh yeah,
was quite nice. But nowadays, honestly, I like all. If I had to choose one, if money was no problem, is red, and not just
sure.
because it's the most expensive. I actually really like the red. For example, your Salah looks amazing, and like I was explaining, goes so well with the Liverpool kit that card is insanely beautiful. I was looking at the Aguero blue, and I thought
Mm.
this Aguero blue may looks better in blue than in red. That's the reality. Even though, of course, the red will be much more expensive, but it's also about the aesthetics of the card, and yeah, that's my perspective to be honest. So the question number two goes like this: I would love an update on your goal of getting a PSA 87 on bees. Any changes and different goals right now? Like I was saying, I saw that you got a Chrome Salah red, and that's already a big goal. So share some insight on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give some context on the Salah, and then but to answer the first question on the Messi, so still doing the Grail quest. Started with a $1,000 bankroll with the idea of just buying, grading, selling cards to try and build that up over time. And then along the way, really share my thought process and learnings for other people who might be either in the hobby or entering the hobby, just as like learn from my mistakes, maybe learn from things that I do well, kind of thing. Currently, we're at around $2,000, so we basically doubled the bankroll, and that's assuming I have
Congrats, by the way.
25. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's slow and steady. We have about 25 cards at PSA. So I'm basically assuming that if I just sell those for cost, if I completely break even, I'll have $2,000. So if we make a few $100s or $1,000 or something like that, number could be closer to 3,000. So still going. I think the waiting for PSA is, I think, the toughest part of it for me, because I get cards out and then like I have a batch right now. It's been there for 3 months, and it's just like it makes it tough to sort of document the journey and also buy and sell those cards when like a third of it is just sitting at PSA. Um, and so yeah, still doing that. I think were you gonna say something?
I was saying, to be fair, when you started, the turnarounds ended up being much worse, right? So
Yeah, so when I started, it was interesting. I was actually using SGC for a little bit because they had like a 1 week turnaround. And
that's different, yeah.
I've actually considered doing that, but I think going through the process, like it's really certain types of cards that you have to consider sending there. You can't just, I think, send everything just because of some of the resale value. So yeah, I still have that goal. I really want to finish that just for the purpose of I started it, and that's why some people follow my channel, or at least originally started following my channel. But then also, I think just like going through it and continuing to like adapt to the way the market changes, I think is valuable both for myself, but I think also for other people to just see through, my mindset and just learn from, like I said, things that I'm doing. On the Salah, so yeah, I think like as I've gotten more into the soccer card hobby, especially, I think when I first started, it was like, okay, I'm just going to buy all these cards and grade these cards. And then there's so many different things, especially in soccer, so many eras and so many different players to focus on, where I'm like, oh, that looks cool, or I'll get that. I didn't really have like a clear direction. And so then as I got more and more into it, I was like, okay, and I've taken some inspiration from other collectors and other just people in the hobby around just enjoyable ways to approach the hobby. And I think what I've found very enjoyable is, like I said, mentioning collecting the 2017 Chrome Gold set and other just 2017 Chrome and obviously Salah, just having that focus of a set and a player that I'm trying to collect has really provided a lot more enjoyment for me. And so when the red came up, it was really more of a, okay, like, do I move around some existing things that I have to like free up some funds for this? Because this might be like a once in a lifetime opportunity to get this card, pop one. He's my favorite player. I've been a Liverpool supporter for like 10 years. So it was just kind of like it felt meant to be. Not necessarily something I had planned on, but I think it just shows like as you're in this hobby, things become available, and it's important to be able to be adaptable and and focused as well. Because if I wasn't focused, like that card would have come up and I would have been like, oh, that card looks cool. And then by the time I was focused on collecting Salah, for example, it would have been long gone. So I think it definitely, I find myself veering more into like the collector mindset, which I think ultimately is just a more enjoyable way to be in this hobby. But I think it takes everyone their own journey to kind of get there and find that.
Let's put things this way: the market also forces a lot of people to be
That's
collectors and not investors. But I mean, congrats on that card. Like I was saying, is an amazing. Actually, I believe he's one of the most beautiful cards in the set because looks amazing, red on red. And you are also a huge Liverpool fan, so kind of I was happy that you are the person that got the card. But actually, this is not part of the questions I had prepared for you. But I'm curious to know, because if you have the red Salah, you basically, if you want to collect Salah, you have probably the most difficult one out of the list, forgetting, of course, the one of one. Are you becoming a Salah collector, going, for example, for the Prism 2018? Because Salah is a player that is a bit weird in the sense that he is an amazing player. He could very easily be an all-time great, specific for Africa. And I think his prices are fairly affordable comparing with other players.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I'm definitely biased, but I think generally he's very underappreciated. I think, just in as a soccer player in general, but I think in the hobby as well. And you're right, it's kind of a weird, like his rookie is technically the sticker in 2013 Champions League. There's some overprinting problems. The PSA 10s are actually pretty low pop, I think like 40 something, which is pretty good for a sticker that's been around for 10 years. But he doesn't have like a rookie card, right? And then between 2013 and really 2017 Topps Chrome, there's not that many Salah cards. And then, yeah, he's in the 2018 Prism.
You have a Chelsea card, 2014, and there is numbered versions of that card. So again, if you are a Liverpool fan, a Chelsea card may not do it for you, but it's kind of like a rookie card, to be fair. If you really think about his first season in the Premier League, I actually believe that card has some potential, to be fair with you.
I think so too. And it's actually, I've looked into that card a bit. It's very low pop. Like it's very hard to find. So I think there is definitely a rarity aspect there. But then, yeah, and then there's a couple like Topps UEFA Champions League cards with him in a Roma kit. I think there's like a Revolution card. Like there's just not many like key cards, I guess.
So I'm sorry for interrupting you so much, but sure. The cards I really like for him, that are available, probably there is some agenda that I'm forgetting. First of all is the Chrome card. I think is the best card for him. He is with Liverpool, great set. I think that's the best card. I also think the Prism is a cool one. It's 2018, right? He was that's not right. In 2014, yeah.
That's right.
And I saw, I for some reason I don't remember the parallel exactly, but I saw a very low numbered one in Prism, let's say 6 months ago, selling for very little, and I thought, look, if you are a Salah collector, this is a great card. And I also like the Revolution because, and I like it because he actually was quite good at Roma, and Roma is also a great team. And I don't know, I think a card with Liverpool, a card with Roma, and a card with Egypt is quite nice if you are a Salah collector. If I was collecting Salah, those will be the three cards I would basically target him.
Yeah. So I think to answer your original question, I do have, I basically have a PSA 10 of every chrome parallel except the orange.
Mm.
There's 2 oranges on eBay right now, but like going back to our orange and gold discussion, the oranges on eBay right now they're both listed at like almost 4,000, like very
Oh,
high in my
okay.
opinion. And I think part of the problem is like one of the buyers, I was looking at the sales history. I think one of the buyers just bought at the peak of the market for like 4,000. So like doesn't want to come down. Um, and then the other one I think was just recently graded. But it's interesting because the pop reports for the orange, there's like a pop 6 for the PSA 10, and the gold is a pop 2. So there's like some weird pop dynamics with that with
Yeah, that's
the
weird.
Salah too. Because I think Salah is a pop 2 in the 10 and like a pop 7 or 9 and then not in the PSA 9. So
Because
it's
the set the gem rate is like 30% or 50%. So, and I at one point I knew this. Right now I'm not up to date, but to be honest, the PSA 10s I remember being very equal among all the colors. But sometimes it happens, that there is one color have a lot of PSA 10s, the other don't, and it's weird.
Yeah, and like certain players too will have some players will have like 0 10s and like 7 9s, and then others will
Yeah.
have like 12 10s and 0 9. It's super weird. So that one I think eventually I'll get the PSA 10 orange just to have the full rainbow. Cause yeah, once I had the red and I recently got the gold, it was like, well, I already had the other colors and they're not that hard to get. So and then obviously the superfractor, but that's impossible. So and then yeah, I have a few 2018 Prism. I've kind of just been looking at those like when I can find good deals. I think I have the green crystals, which is out of 25. It was interesting. One just sold. It was like the blue shimmer, just out of 5, just sold a PSA 9. Just sold the other day for like less than $700, which I don't know. Like I bid on it. I wasn't willing to go super high because frankly, I didn't really know if that was a good price or not. It feels low, just given it's out of
It feels
5.
low, at least for me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm also not up to date on the Salah market to know for sure if that was a good deal or not. But it seems okay, at least.
Yeah, it's interesting. That one's interesting too because Prism, like the blue, which is I think 199. I could be off, but you can get a PSA 10 for that for like $100, $150. And then the red, I think it's 149 because then the red is out of 199, but
No,
because it's a color match, it sells for
mm,
like,
no. I
is it
actually
199 or
believe.
249? 249.
No, actually, I
The red.
believe you end up being corrected the first time. The blue is out of 199 and the red 149. Because that's the way Prism 2014 goes, and I believe 2018 also goes that way. But again,
Got it. I thought the 2018 red was out of maybe it's 149. Anyways, it's not that far off from 199, but it sells for like 3x because it's like a color match.
oh,
So
but
like the red one in 2018 Prison is hard to get for a cheap price.
But same thing happens in 2014 with Cristiano Ronaldo. The red sells for more than the purple because the red looks really good with the Portugal kit, and the purple does not match that well. So, and honestly, I understand that. At the end of the day, we also collect because the card looks good. Aesthetics are part of the equation, no matter what. And I was thinking also about that. Would I prefer a purple Ronaldo or a red? Honestly, the red. I know it's a bit more common, but it is what it is, basically.
Yeah, it's like the red you would want to look at more, and the purple you would just have it because it's rare, but it wouldn't necessarily make you as happy. So yeah, I get that. So yeah, we'll see. I definitely am collecting Salah, but I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm collecting every Salah ever. I'm trying to be again like more intentional, more focused, have more of a plan around what it is that I buy and focus my energy on.
I actually don't know the answer for this question, but is Salah also part of the select level fields, the horizontal card on
So like
2017?
2016,
Or,
2016,
or
2017.
could be both because
Yeah, no.
no, right? Yeah, because he was at Rome, and the only famous Roma card is probably the Revolution, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
but
and then I think, like I said, I think the 2017 Chrome is like the first. That's like the first time he was in a Liverpool kit, and that's like his, obviously a key set. So
yeah.
he's an interesting player because he's not in a lot. I mean, now he is, right? Like all the new product, there's tons of new product, but and then yeah, I think in terms of like legacy, it's like he's not far from being a top 3 goal scorer at Liverpool, which is I think pretty well recognized as one of the biggest clubs. Like that's, I mean, he's already scored more than Gerrard. Granted, Gerrard played midfield, but he also took penalties. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I think in hindsight, he'll go down as like a very well respected, legend. But it's almost hard to appreciate while it's
No, I
still
agree.
happening.
I agree. And for me, his legacy depends still a bit if he stays, let's say, 2 or 3 seasons more at Premier League, because he's still playing well. So if next season he goes to Saudi, I would feel a bit disappointed with him, similar to Neymar, to be honest, because Neymar could still be playing at the elite level and end up doing that. And I think Salah could be similar on that sense, but if Salah stays 2 seasons more, 2 seasons would be ideal in my perspective at Liverpool. He probably will break some records. He probably will put numbers that will be difficult to catch. And he's already one of the best African players ever, in my opinion. He's already debating with Samuel Eto'o, Didier Drogba, but he can actually surpass them. But he needs to keep winning stuff. And Liverpool is doing great this season, right? So who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I hope he stays too.
So, but I'm a huge fan of Salah, actually. I think he's one of the best players. So the question number 3 goes this way. Since our conversation we had, let's say, 1 year ago, what's the big difference you see in our market right now? Comparing the market versus when you started.
I think you kind of touched on it earlier. I think a lot of the, I don't want to say hype, but I think like some of the hype has sort of died down. I don't think it's necessarily just soccer or football, but across a lot of the markets. But I think that's the biggest one where I've seen, prices continue to drop. Not on every card, but if you look at like card ladder index, I mean, it's consistently down. And
by the way, Seth, it's not even only cards or collectibles. If you look at real estate, it's down. Sure. You look at everything right now. Stocks, I think there is still. I think probably the worst was like 7 months, 8 months ago. I thought there was so much fear in the market, but there is still a lot of fear, and I think that plays a huge role. Actually, I was looking at data for Europe, to be honest, so not super relevant for a lot of viewers. But there is much less credits right now, basically less free money, and that plays a huge role in the markets.
Yeah, I think less free money, and like you said, just kind of the fear. I think even if people have free money, there's just and I've seen this too, where I buy a card, either eBay, Card Hobby, somewhere, with the intention to grade it. I send it to PSA. By the time it comes back, even in a PSA 10, sometimes that card is worth what I paid for it raw because of the time lag between when I bought it and when I'm selling it, right? And so then that makes it seem like, well, why am I even buying that in the first place if it's honestly just a dip, right? I think a lot of people are feeling that way.
No, but you actually, a couple of minutes ago, you ended up talking about SEC, and I remember saying this to a lot of people, that everyone say, oh no, you have to send cards to PSA. This was 1 year ago, 2 years ago. And I remember saying to a lot of people, I don't think so, because if you send to PSA, you wait 6 months, you wait 1 year, you don't know the market. I made a lot of money with my strategy with SEC because I was putting the cards back in the market very fast. And I remember people, it's a bit of folks, but I remember people doing the same with PSA 10s later, and they sold for less than my SEC 95s, So yeah. This is also something to have in consideration, is when the market is going down, speed is very important, speed is always important because you can adjust much better, but in cards is a big deal. And another thing that I also wanted to ask, and we end up actually moving questions, but I forgot to ask this. In your journey of getting to the Messi 7 on Bs, what are the product, if that makes sense, that is doing the best for you? Is pre-modern? Is modern? What are the ones that are making you closer?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. I would say I've probably done, I don't know how many cards, but maybe somewhere between like 50 and 70 or so that I've like actually graded and sold. A lot of them, and this is what I talk about on the channel too, where it's like a lot of my goal is really to like, hey, we're gonna lose money on some cards. It's just the nature of
Of course.
grading and the market, right? So it's like, how do we minimize what we lose? And then if we when we do hit like a big card, like maximize it. So, out of the, if we're up like $1,000, starting with 1,000, now we're at 2,000, I could probably trace that gain to like 4 cards.
Mm.
Like you remove everything else, it kind of cancels out, and then there's like 4 cards. A couple Ronaldinho, it's like the 2003, the Los Cracks de la
Mondicrom.
Liga. It
Yeah.
kind of looks like a disco ball type card. I graded 2 of those and got pretty high grades, and so I was able to basically turn $50 in cost into like $300. Like those were kind of some big wins. I also, right before the World Cup, found a messy gold finest flashbacks on Card Hobby for like $60. So then I graded that. It got a 10, and I sold for like three something. So there's a few of those where it's like, it obviously like big players. And then honestly, some of the more rare pre-modern stuff has been actually the best ROI. The problem with that is it's hard to find that stuff, and it's hard to find it in, PSA 8+ shape.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the newer stuff that's done well is really like the stuff that you would think, like some rookies that performed well. So I had like some Cody Gakpo. He was doing well for Liverpool. Those sold well. Even in instances where I didn't grade them, right? They would just like resell them, and the market had just ticked up. And then a lot of like the US men's national team stuff did bad. So like stuff that I bought and then I didn't grade it. And then by the time I got it back, it was like 4 or 5 months, and the World Cup hype had sort of died down. Some Pulisic, especially Gio Reyna, that he was another one that kind of died down. So it's interesting to kind of see and experiment with sets, players, and see what works, and then be like, okay, like what are my learnings? Like that's one thing I always try to do when I do my sales recaps is like, okay, what did I learn from this batch of cards? And one of the things I've learned is like stop buying Gio Reyna, at least for now, until things get a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, does not surprise me that much because I believe when the market was at the top, the American players did so well that the correction eventually
Yeah.
will happen. But the thing about pre-modern is that, and I have a similar experience, even though I am doing less flipping nowadays. But pre-modern, when you get the top grades, the return is absurd. But the problem is not easy to, because at least for me, pre-modern was basically boom or bust a lot of times. If I get a PSA 8, probably I'm not making anything. Probably I lose money in the sense that I wait and shipping, etc. is not great. If you get a 10, things get quite obnoxious because sometimes you buy a card for $20, you sell it close to 500. It's really crazy. But yeah, I mean, interesting stuff to know for sure. But I end up basically cutting you from the question number 3. Basically, was the biggest difference in our market. So if you want to continue with that, feel free.
Yeah. I was just saying, I think like because of the prices, like it kind of forces a couple things. Like it has definitely shifted my focus into more of a collector mindset, which I think is probably where I was going to be anyways. It's just, when prices are going down, it's hard to have fun if everything that you buy loses money. So for me, it's more like, okay, how can I have fun like participating in this market? And so I've found a lot of joy out of, like I said, focusing on Salah or 2017 Chrome, and then interacting. The coolest thing has been just like interacting with people that I've been purchasing cards from, or like the gold Salah, for example. I saw that card was on an Instagram page. I contacted that person. They finally got back to me and said like, oh, I sold it to this person several months ago. So I contacted that person, and they're like, oh man, I just sold this to this person. And then I contacted that person, and you just like, not saying like, hey, can I have this card? But it's more like you just kind of like interact with people and you meet people. And then by the time you get to the person who has it, and you just basically build a relationship. And then eventually he was like, hey, I'd be willing to sell this to you. getting that card, now there's like 3 people that I've interacted with that now I, still trade messages with. And to me, that's been like the biggest change for me personally. But I think just like broadly speaking, as you have other people in the market, as prices are going down, I think there's other ways to really appreciate the hobby and appreciate the people in the hobby. So I think that's like what I've seen personally. And I think maybe just advice for other people who are maybe feeling a little discouraged by the macro and economic environment.
Hey guys, sorry for interrupting this amazing conversation, but I want to share an amazing thing with you. The Talking Cards podcast also releases on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And let me be totally honest with you. If you find value on my videos, if you find value on the Talking Cards podcast, keep in mind there is a lot of hours that I put into this. And if you can help me in some way, that will be amazing. And the way I want you to help me right now is if you can go to the Apple Podcasts and leave a review, thank you so much for that. If you could do the same on the Spotify, also thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's basically it. Let's continue this conversation because this is an amazing one. No, well said. I mean, I subscribe to that 100%. Look, one thing that I have been saying on this channel for so long. If you guys want to make money, cards are probably not the best place to be in. Let's be real. Yes, sometimes it will happen, this crazy bull run that we had in 2020, 2021, and all of a sudden this looks the best investment on earth. But in reality, that tends to be not the reality. It really is not the reality, but you get the point, right? The thing with collectibles is if you enjoy, I mean, could be a nice plus, if you make smart purchases, of course, you can have a decent return in the future if you want to sell it. But if you are a collector, that's not even in your mind, it's like, yeah, maybe I can sell it for more, or my kids or something can sell it for more in the future. But that's not why I'm buying this. I also think it's fair because I also was talking about this in a video that I will put on YouTube soon, that I think our market is very split sometimes, in the sense that some people say, oh, you should not talk about money. It's all about collecting. And you have the other side that they just talk about money and they forget about collecting. I think it's probably a bit in the mix, in the sense that, look, at the end of the day, those cards are expensive. So not talking about money, I mean, if we all are billionaires, that makes sense, but that's not the case. So talking about money is important. Trying to make smart purchases is super important. But there is also the other side of the market that if I flip this for that, this for that. I mean, do you enjoy what you are collecting? Do you even watch the game, or do you have any connection with the set? Something like that, I believe is super, super important. So well said what you said there, because I mean, yeah, being a collector is the best feeling in the market.
Yeah, I think there's room for both of what you said too. Like, I think it's fine to like grade and buy and flip cards as a means, like I said, to making more money that you can then use to buy the things that you want. And personally, I think that's
your channel is a perfect example.
Way. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the most enjoyable way, because like when I can buy something, or once I finally get, enough to buy the Messi, it just makes it that much more rewarding. And even when the Messi challenge is done, that mindset and those principles, that's how I basically operate throughout the market. It's more just trying to document that process and be transparent. But once that's done, then it's like, I'm still going to continue to do that. It's not like I'm going to stop doing that type of, mindset.
No, of course. I mean, exactly that. And your channel is perfect, because if you look at your channel, look, you are talking as a collector right now with me, but you also track the money you put into the market. You are trying to acquire a better card. So it's very easy to connect both, but the core of being a collector needs to be there. Specific, because the thing is, if you are not a collector, you eventually will leave the market. I have zero doubt about this, because you will realize what I was saying, that if you want money, this is not the best market. Eventually people realize that. And when they realize that, okay, people do not understand the value, they understand the price, they leave. And if you are a collector, value with cards is something different. It's something that you enjoy so much. It's something that you have memories. It's the connection with people that you meet in Discord, in Instagram. That's so huge, at least for me. And I believe you feel the same.
definitely.
Just to finish this, we have two more questions. The
Sure.
question number 4 is, what's your worst prediction for our market, or could be the card market in general, is up to you, and the best prediction. So if everything goes right versus if everything goes bad. Let's start with bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst case is kind of just an extension of what we're seeing. I mean, eventually, like prices can only drop so far, but yeah, I think the worst case scenario is that prices do drop so far
Yeah.
that it makes things like buying and grading not sustainable, which I think would be a bummer because, like I said, that's how I think a lot of people interact with the market, and also how a lot of people effectively raise funds for their participation in the market. On the flip side of that, though, I do think like the lower prices go, again, going back to the collector side, it makes it more appealing for collectors. I think, I personally think a lot of it is just tied to like macroeconomic environment, like as we already touched on, like there's less sort of free money out there and people have more fear. So as a result, like the market's going to kind of keep dipping. But I don't see where it's like everything goes to zero. Like I don't see that scenario just because of, I think the collector base of the market provides a floor that even if prices get so low, then collectors will start jumping into like buy more things for their collection, which I think keeps at least some bit of demand. But I don't know. I guess I don't have like a super negative outlook of the market. Like I think it's in reality, like we are where we are, and there's probably room to go even lower in terms of prices. But I think that's kind of the worst of it is like prices just get lower and then it just goes back to like, don't overextend yourself thinking that you're going to get, a short-term return, I guess is the way that I would think about that.
I was waiting for you to share the best scenario, but the thing with the worst scenario, I think you are kind of spot on there. I mean, the worst scenario is what we have right now to increase to not increase all of the sudden, because I think that's very unrealistic, but slowly this becoming the reality, that prices are going down, 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 and all of a sudden a card that was 10K is 1K, card that was 1K is $100. And this is not one sale to another, but eventually things can there. And to be honest, if everyone feels afraid of that, they should reconsider the position in the market, because that's a possibility. I don't think it's a likely one, like you said, and I totally agree. I think we are connected with macroeconomics quite a lot. Look, what was the reason for the explosion of our market, the Pokemon market, all the other markets? COVID played a role in the sense that more people at home, no doubt about that. But also the stock market was doing so well, crypto was at all-time high, there was a lot of money going around. Right now, crypto is off of that, and there is a huge connection between the crypto market and cards. More people talked about this in the past, and I agree in general. So yeah, basically people have less money. The people that are paying their home to the bank are paying more right now. Rents are probably also up, so less money overall. And of course, cards are not essential to live. It is what it is. But please continue with the best scenario.
Yeah, I was gonna just say one more thing on the worst scenario. I think one thing that could make it worse, and I think it's something that we're kind of seeing now, is if Panini and Topps and whoever, like if they keep like basically like increasing print supply, right? Like I think that's also exacerbating some of this, because like let's just take Topps Chrome, like for example, there used to be 6 parallels, right? Now there's like 60, right?
No,
And so I think like
in modern for
that
sure
combined,
they.
yeah, that combined with like the decreasing prices, at least for them, like they're probably making plenty of money, but from a like investor, collector, grader side, that makes it challenging, because even when you find the gold out of 50 of a Topps Chrome of even, let's say Salah or Messi or whoever, like how many other cards either equal or lesser parallels are there of those? And then you have like every set, and then you have every year. And I think there's that's one thing that I think could make things at least a little worse in the short term. Hopefully they find a way to avoid that. But I think that's less that applies to all card markets, right? Like overprinting and number of sets and things like that.
So something that I actually learned over time, specific with ECGs, is a lot of those companies, they have a huge delay when it comes to comparing results, data. For example, in Magic was very frustrating because they work 3 years in advance. So imagine when the market is not liking something and we still have 3 years to go. Pokemon was the same, and I'm not sure you probably remember this. When the Pokemon market exploded, there was no Pokemon at all, and that was like 1 or 2 years like that, and all of a sudden there is a lot, and now there is too much. So probably the soccer card market, the sports card market in general, is a bit better since they go season by season, I assume, but the delay is still there. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden, let's say, in 2026 our market is doing very, very well and Tops is doing less product because they have this type of delay, and I think we are also experiencing this. Look, when the market was doing well, there was not a lot of product in the market and stayed like that for a long time. All of a sudden the market is going down, there is a lot of product because of the delay, but eventually things correct.
So I guess on the upside, or best case scenario, I still firmly believe this. I think that if you just look at sports cards in general, you look at other markets, basketball, American football, even things like wrestling, like there's a lot of like fringe sports as well that are really starting to gain a lot of traction. Obviously football, basketball, two of the biggest ones, baseball. There's a huge, I actually am surprised by how high some of the prices are for just like Prism Silver rookies of players, right? But I think a lot of that has to do with just like the overall demand for those sports globally and specifically in the United States, where a lot of the sports card hobby is, I don't want to say based, but like there's a lot that drives a lot of the hobby. But if you look at soccer, it's a global sport. It's like the most popular sport in the world. And from like it's not like people don't watch it either, right? Like people watch Premier League, Champions League, La Liga, like it's so from a demand standpoint, my personal opinion is that it's continuing to increase. It's continuing to increase in the US, I think partially because of just the US men's national team being more relevant and more talked about and more just focused on. I think that there is an upside. I'm not saying it's going to be like the basketball market, but if you said that soccer right now was like 30% of the basketball market or something, I think it could be 75%. Like I think there's definitely plenty of upside just in terms of demand, focus, people enjoying the sport in America and globally. So I think like if you look at, other card markets, whether you do like market cap or just sales volume or however you want to judge it, I think there's upside in that regard for soccer. I'm not saying it's the same as those other sports. I think it would take a lot for it to reach those levels, but I think it's certainly higher than what it is now, and probably significantly higher. And I think, granted, COVID, the pandemic, as you mentioned, was kind of a perfect storm of market peaking out. But if you look back at some of the soccer card prices during that time, I think that gives you a sense of at least what's possible. And if you compare that to now, it's already a pretty big dip. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know that we're necessarily going to be back there in a year, but longer term, I think especially for, key players or key sets, I think there's definitely upside, especially as more and more people enter the hobby and just enjoy soccer generally.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's fair to say that the hype is not the same as it was even 1 year ago. We can already take a look at some major difference. For example, and I'm totally fine talking about this, I had more viewers 1 year ago than I have now. But I think all content creators are more or less feeling the same. Specifically in the soccer card market, what I notice is you get to a point that is difficult to get much more than you have, because our market is still small. But I'm okay with that. I think everything is about cycles at the end of the day, and maybe this cycle is not the best. But if you stop, now talking as a content creator, if you stop doing content, that's not the solution at all, because eventually the cycle will be better. If you are on YouTube, if you are putting content right there, people will find you. And I honestly also apply this logic to collecting. I think right now quitting what you believed 1 year ago makes very little sense, because was your opinion just based on prices? Probably not. It was also based on real fundamentals, on the value of actually the cards / the assets you are collecting. So stay focused. Things go up and down. And yeah, I mean, look, in Magic the Gathering, I remember so many times the people telling that the market was dying. This was 20 years ago. And look, the first time they kind of get you. Okay, maybe it's actually dying. I remember a friend telling me that the market is dying. You have to quit right now. And I almost did. But, the market was actually not dying. It was just a phase, and more of that end up happening. And I saw a lot of people believing that the market was dying so many times that I cannot even count anymore. And I think the same will happen with the soccer card market.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
So to finish this, my friend, the free question I have all the time is hot take / unpopular opinion about the hobby. Could be about the card market or the soccer card market.
Well, I don't even know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I kind of touched on it earlier. Is I think there's too much product. I think there's weight, and it's two problems. There's too much product, which I think has impact on like prices generally. But I also don't think that in the soccer card hobby that the product is focused enough. So for example, like Panini Prism World Cup, like it's easy to understand what that set is about. It's about the World Cup, right? Topps Chrome, I can understand that because it's like that's one of the key flagship sets. So like every year we have a Topps Chrome. Stadium Club, I really enjoy. And I think the thing I think about that set is it's all about the photography and the aesthetics. And then it starts to get kind of like Finest. I like Finest, but it's like, what's the role of Finest? Like, what's the purpose? Merlin, I think Merlin is like the set that always has like the rookies that aren't in the other sets. So I think what I'm getting at is like, I wish it was a bit more focused in the sense that like, I'll just compare to like basketball, right? Basketball rookies make sense because every year there's a draft and there's like a class of rookies that then have the rookie logo. And so it's very intuitive. It's very obvious. Soccer, we obviously don't have that really. There's no draft. A guy's a rookie because Panini or Topps decide that he's a rookie basically, or it's like the first time he's in a card. And it's not consistent between sets. And so then when you look at someone like Jude Bellingham, he's in every set and he has like a ton of rookies. And you have other people who are in one single set. And I think maybe it's just something I wish it was a little more structured, where it was like in baseball where they have like Bowman. And so that's where all the prospects are. And so like, okay, this is your first Bowman card. And then you'll have like a rookie card. I wish it was something like that, where like Merlin was where all the prospects were or something like that. Cause then it's like, okay, that's the value proposition of Merlin. I know Merlin has history and context in the hobby. So maybe that's not the best example, but I'm just trying to, and then maybe Finest is where you have, I don't know, rookie card or whatever. And then Topps Chrome is like the first time they're in Champions League or, whatever it is, but it just feels very unstructured. And I think because of that, I at least find myself not as excited about new releases. Cause it's like, other than just prospecting on the new rookie class and hoping I can grade and flip them before the hype dies down. Like, it's just hard for me to really, I guess, feel connected or feel like focused on what's happening, especially with so much, I guess, product coming out. I don't know. That's just something I've been thinking about recently.
Okay, so a lot of things there. I agree, a lot of product. And what you said is something that I believe I made a video about this in the past, that we don't have a clear winner product in the soccer card market. I think we try to make it the Sapphire, but some people are not buying into that. Some people really like the Prism. Then there is people that, no, Top Scrum for me is still the thing to go. And you end up touching in Finest that I think is the perfect example, because Finest is basically Top Scrum if you think about it. You know, there is almost no difference. Both are, the license is the same, it's for Champions League. So why is that product Merlin at least, or even Stadium to a certain level, but you can see they have different rookies a lot of times, specific Merlin. So the product kind of makes sense, but there is a lot of products that they don't make a lot of sense. And Finest, I said this a couple of times already, Finest is the weirdest set in the soccer card market because in other markets it's kind of huge. You know, I also collect Star Wars. Finest is huge there, but here is a bit of whatever product. I mean, what are the popular Finest cards apart from Haaland rookie? Nothing. If you really think about. So I agree, but this is a complex topic to be honest.
Well, and you bring up Finest is interesting too, because if you go way back to the beginning of Finest, like the 90s, and you look at like the first refractors were in Finest, not Topps Chrome. So Finest has this like legacy in other sports. I agree. In soccer, it's kind of like, how is it different than Chrome? Other than, I mean, I personally like Finest. I like the design. I like how it looks.
I like Finest a lot, by the way, just to make it clear.
But it is kind of like, what is the, you know, what are the, you know, it has the same parallels. It has mostly the same players as Topps Chrome. So then it's like, if I'm picking between the two, what is the differentiator? One thing I do like that they did is with the Finest flashback set, because that one gave me a lot of nostalgia for like the 90s. Like they basically took the old designs and applied it to soccer. I don't know if that's something, so, I think they're doing it this year too.
You are talking about are you talking about the new the Ronaldinho, the Cristiano Ronaldo, the new insert?
No, it's there was like a whole, it was like another set. So like that's the problem too. It's like another hobby set, but it was called Football's Finest or Finest Flashbacks. But the cards
in soccer
are, yeah. So like one of the I had like a messy gold that I sold a while ago, but it has a very old kind of like nostalgic 90s feel to it, which I really enjoyed. But the problem is that it was there was Finest, and then now there's Finest Flashback. So it's like another set, which is, I think, just adding to the problem. But yeah, and I think part of it too is maybe because like in the life cycle of other sports, like soccer has come after all these other ones. So they're like, so Topps has, hey, we have Chrome and we have Finest and we have Stadium Club for all these other sets. Like, let's just apply it to soccer. I don't know what the answer is though. Like, I don't really see Topps just deciding to stop making certain products. And I think from
I'm sorry. Did you saw because we are talking about Finest, the new inserts they have? Actually, I forgot the name. I know Cristiano Ronaldo is in the prized footballs, but you have the Ronaldinho. To be fair, nowadays and that's another problem, is all the new sets they have legends. You see Zidane in every set right now, R9 in every set. But also, your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool in the sense that, you know, when I think about when I was growing up and I was younger, you know, Ronaldinho, Thierry Henry, like those were the guys. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people in this market are really into pre-modern, because that's a lot of the players and the teams that we watched as we were growing up. But it's complicated because as much as I like seeing them, I personally am not a huge fan of like cards of people who aren't playing anymore. I don't know why. It's because I can't watch them on TV. Like I can watch Thierry Henry commentating on Champions League, but I can't really like watch him play as I'm collecting the cards, which I think makes it difficult. But I mean, it's cool when you have like certain players where it's like they don't have a lot of cards in general, and then they pop up on one of these sets with like a gold refractor or something. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I'm not as excited about it, but I could see why people would enjoy it.
No, for sure. I mean, same feeling here. If those end up being very exclusive from one set, let's say only Topps Chrome does that or only Prism does that, I think that will be much cooler. But since even Stadium is doing that. Merlin is doing that. I think all the sets nowadays are doing that. So if they are not special, that's the problem. But it's cool to see at least. I mean, I was looking at the Ronaldo, the Brazilian one, museum card out of 39 sold for $15. I thought, look, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, at one point I ended up going crazy, but people, at the end of the day, the market adjusts, and people are realizing, yeah, those will be happening for years and years and years to come. So there is no reason to pay a lot for them. And a lot of people do not like to collect cards from players that are not playing anymore. So, but yeah, my friend, Thank you so much. If you have any final thoughts, feel free to share.
Yeah, no, just excited to come on and chat again. And I think, like I said, just really enjoying approaching the hobby as a collector and interacting with and meeting other collectors. And yeah, it's just been a really fun way, I think, to participate in the hobby. And I expect I'll be continuing to participate and make content for many years to come. So yeah, thanks again for having me on.
No, for sure. My pleasure again. And yeah, we need to do another one in 1 year or even less, who knows. Because it's always good to chat with other collectors. And at the end of the day, I mean, I think we kind of need more of this type of content also on the soccer card market community on YouTube. And I'm talking against myself because I talk a lot about money, invest in this, invest in that, but collector stock are also quite important. So repeating myself, but once again, thank you so much for accepting the invite. And yeah, see you guys next time. Have a nice day. Bye.